welcome back to this Move, Sweat and Suffer podcast. Unfortunately, you just have myself as the host for today because Lee Hazard, who we will no doubt rip into during this podcast, Sam and I, has decided to pull out on us literally last minute. He's blaming his children, his wife, the cat, the dog, the weather, his notebook, his pen, his shoulders, his wrists, everything, because he's not able to get it. But no, he's got some stuff happening with his family. He's got the booster jab that he's getting and a whole bunch of other stuff. But we're privileged to have the one and only Sam Fitness Throssell here with us today. This is take two because the audio wasn't too flash the first time when we tried to download and upload it. So what I've done, Sam, is I actually haven't gone back and listened to a lot of that. There's some key parts that I remember from it, which we will no doubt speak about. But I thought this would be a good opportunity because it's been a few weeks and there's been quite a few changes. Not changes, but a few things that you've been doing differently that it's been great to see with your training and mixing things up. Your consistency hasn't changed. But mate, it's great to have you back and thank you for being here, bro.
It's an honor. It's an absolute honor. So thank you for having me back.
No, all good, and it's great. I can hear your volume's nice and loud, so there won't be any problems with the audio. Sadly, we probably just won't have the cheeky little comments or as frequently or the one-liners that Lee is known for. Did you know? Just before we carry on and dive into your story, people are calling him and referring to him as the Billy Connolly of the fitness industry. That's high praise.
That is high praise.
It's high praise. But anyway, Lee aside, and that nonce for Blink and piking out of this podcast. How have you been, brother? How's everything going your end?
Yeah, doing good. I apologize for my voice today. Liverpool had a crazy football game. We scored in the last minute, and I got a little bit carried away. And then I was like, oh no, my voice.
I saw that in your video when you're talking about it and you had the shirt on and everything.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's good. Eh? So good win.
It was a good win. Yeah, we needed it. That was a good opportunity to jump to first. So that's
awesome.
why I was screaming when we scored.
Excellent, man. And so I guess maybe, let's start with where you're at now, I guess, and then we'll get into some of the backdrop and things that have happened, and particularly the one that I want to speak about in relation to your brother, because I found that really powerful. I've thought about that quite a bit since our first catch up. But maybe if we could start with your burpee / training journey to date, like from here where you are now, because I've seen you, and I don't know how you feel, but I've seen you make massive amounts of progress in your journey since finding you on YouTube and then subscribing and following along. And then maybe if you can take us through where you're at now and just sort of connect the dots for us moving backwards a bit.
Yeah, sure. So where I'm at now is I'm trying to train. I'm trying to train burpees at least 7 days a week, and I'm really aiming to get to 300 a day. And I'm kind of following a little bit of what you've been doing, where you do a little bit throughout the day.
Yeah.
I'm not able to record a lot of that because the kids, and we don't like the kids on social media. So, but I've been incorporating kettlebells into my routines,
Nice.
and I'm massively in love with those. It's just opened my eyes to what's possible. And it's a shame Lee isn't here because I've got him to kind of thank for that because he has been pushing me.
There's no thanking Lee on this podcast. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, he's been pushing me. He says, if you really want to take your fitness to another level, start incorporating stuff like the kettlebells and into pull-ups and chin-ups. I got that that bar instead of what Derek likes to call my the homeless burpee camp, that ridiculous video I put out. Oh my God, I still can't believe I did that. The whole thing, it literally looked like that's where I sleep. And I'm like hanging off this tree, and it's bouncing up and down 6 inches, and the whole thing was ridiculous. I don't know why I did that. So I've got proper equipment now to really to push on.
Yeah, awesome. That's great, man. And it's looking really cool too. Like just seeing even some of the way that you're progressing and structuring your training. So maybe it's a couple of pull-ups or 3 or 5 pull-ups at a time, breaking them up as you go till you build that capacity and strength. And I think those are really good tips for people I know of some people that are keen as to dive into it. but they're looking straight at the big numbers straight away and going, man, I can't do 100 or 300 or 500.
Yeah,
What's your
yeah.
tips or advice to them?
So this has humbled me because I'm used to being able to pump out a lot of burpees because I've
Yeah.
been doing them for a little while now. So having to come back and only be able to do 2 or 3 reps at a time has really made me realize how important it is to just humble yourself at the very beginning, otherwise you will hurt yourself.
Nice.
And just start off slowly. But if you can do 2 or 3, and this is what I'm doing. Every time I go outside, I'm going to the pull-up bar and I'm doing 3 chin-ups, going off and doing my own thing, and then coming back and doing that. And I'm doing that 20, 30, 40 times a day.
Yeah, nice. Adds up,
And
hey?
it does add up, and it's an unmanageable, and I couldn't do 3 chin-ups consecutive when I first got that, because I've never really trained them.
Yep.
And I'm already can do 6, and that's within a week.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So it adds up. So for folks new looking at some of the people and what they can do, don't think you can jump straight into that. It's just take it easy, take it nice and slow, and that's what I've enjoyed about all of this is just being able to let your foot off the gas a little bit. Still get the burpees in because I'm still
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
But just get the reps in. And this is kind of going back to some of the videos and the podcast that you guys have done. It's just about volume throughout the day sometimes, if that's what you can do.
Yeah, awesome. And I like how you've shared that because that's stuff that I see even Osiris, Derek Towers do as well, right? Like we
Yeah.
see him, follow him.
Yeah.
And I love the way he breaks those up. And I think there was one session that I saw, I can't remember exactly, but he did almost every round except for the last round unbroken with his pull-ups and his dips session that he did. And I thought, man, that's a testament to his consistency in the work. And same with you, like no doubt that's what we're going to see. You're going to be working
Yeah.
out unbroken sets of 10 or 15 or whatever those are, just through the way that you keep showing up each day. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Carry on. What else has been happening?
So not much really. Just I got my new kettlebell. It's a 24 kilogram one.
Yeah.
So that's opened my eyes a little bit to what that can do. When I swung it for the first time, I almost took me off my heels. But I'm still, every video I do with the kettlebells, I'm asking folks who are watching just, look at my form because I'm
feedback.
trying to improve it. Because I know I'm hunching at the top a little bit on my back, so I'm working on getting that straightened out.
Yeah.
But just trying to continue, trying to get it in as much as I can. One thing that I've been doing is I got into a habit of only working out when I could record.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And everything's been quite busy the last probably 2 or 3 weeks for me with work and the kids and everything.
Yeah.
And then I realized, what a ridiculous thing to think. If you've got an opportunity to do a little bit, go ahead and do that. So I've been relaxing my stress levels, I guess, because it did get a little stressful, really focusing on you can only work out when you record because you've got to get that content on YouTube. It's important, blah, 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 blah. Whereas you just got to take it back and think, why are you doing this? You're doing this for yourself. That's number one, you're doing it for yourself. And that's why I created my YouTube channel, was for that level of accountability. And number two, you're getting what you're doing out there. You're meeting folks in this incredible community, and you're helping inspire people to do that. So that's number two. But number one, always think that you're trying to better your fitness goals, your life, and that's number one for me.
That's awesome, man. And that's a nice lead into the next question that I wanted to ask you. So what got you into this high rep calisthenics in the first place? What was the catalyst?
I was overweight, and I'd never been overweight in my life, but ever since.
Like how much overweight? What are we talking here? Like,
so I've
2
always
kilos
weighed.
overweight?
No, it was quite a bit worse than that. I've always weighed around the 165 pounds, and I'm 6'1", so
Right.
about 165 has been what I always attribute it back to when I first met my wife. So I was
right. Okay.
in decent shape at that point, and 165. So January of this year, I was up to 195.
Oh wow.
And some of that was because the pandemic, I was working from home, I wasn't moving around as much, I was snacking a lot. I just got myself into this funk, and I said, you've got to do something about this.
Yeah, right.
And at that point, there was, the gyms weren't open, and so I started looking around on YouTube, and that's when, you find Iron Wolf
Yeah.
and the Burpees King.
So they were the first
Um,
two that you found?
they were the first two that I found. I think actually the first one I found was the Burpees King.
Right.
And I was blown away by some of the stuff he did. But then Iron Wolf came quickly because I think he did a collaboration with him, and then I looked into Iron Wolf, and I was just like, whoa, this guy's gone to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
So then I started trying to do what Iron Wolf was doing. I wasn't warming up properly. I wasn't eating properly. Like I was eating the pizza before trying to pump out 200 burpees, and I'd be dead. And it didn't take long for me to hurt myself, and
Yeah.
I hurt my wrists pretty badly. So I was a month off. So in my mind, I was like, right, you've got two choices. Stop trying to do what you were doing and just go back to how you were, or use this time to learn, to research, and kind of understand what you need to be able to do to get to that level. And that's what I ended up doing.
Awesome, man. That's so you during that month off, you're saying, is that when you took the time to just research a little bit more and start working things out?
Yeah, I realized in order to start doing high rep stuff, I needed to strengthen my wrist. So first went to stretching, mobility,
Yeah.
YouTube channels, and then I was stretching for about an hour a day,
Yeah,
and
right.
doing various kind of exercises, flex exercises, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long before I started to feel a lot better. But I realized I needed to incorporate that into the workouts that I was doing as well.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. You should maybe share some of that research on strengthening the wrist with Lee. I don't know if you saw his latest video.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Help him strengthen he uses the term glass wrists. It makes me laugh. So it's like, yeah, he better start strengthening his wrists so he doesn't worry when he leaves his wrist wraps at work. Crack up. But I love how, because I must admit, some of your burpees, particularly I notice when you jump in, reminds me of Burpees King. That guy's so light on his feet, right? When you see him, like
Yeah,
he's quite a unit. But when you see him, it's like he floats, was
yeah.
the term that one of the guys that we had on here, Elijah Nicol, spoke about. And so when I see you jumping your feet in and back and in from the burpee element itself, it sort of reminds me of that. Is that where you've, I guess, because he was probably one of the first person that you saw, you mentioned, do you find yourself adopting traits of people that you maybe see or that you like their pattern or their rhythm? Do you do that?
I do, yeah. And I think
Yeah,
I've looked
I
back
do too.
at my videos, and I think I do have some similarities to how he does it, especially as he comes up, because I kind of put your hands up a little bit and
Yeah,
then step up.
yeah,
And I love that because like you said, it's that smoothness,
mm,
and it's this kind of consistent movement between the I guess the counts between the exercise,
yeah, yeah,
and I really enjoy doing it that way. So
yeah. That's
I think it is influenced by some of the videos I've watched from the Burpees King.
Yeah, definitely. And I like also we had Greg Moulton on who spoke about and acknowledged Iron Wolf, the stuff that he does and has done. But also I see that when people do their counts, there'll be that down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then they'll count. And it strikes me. It's amazing the influence that people can have on other people, and it's not that what's the saying? Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Yeah,
But it's great that even the comments that you've mentioned, not necessarily to try to be like the other person, but I love how you brought it back to why you're doing this in the first place. You're doing
yeah.
this for yourself. And so, sorry, before I forget, so you were 165, you got up to 195. What are you now?
So I'm now about 170, 172. I hover between
Yep.
there. I've got
And you
myself
feel
to a
good there?
good, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And a big thing that changes diet too. I'm not incredibly strict. I believe in the 80-20 rule, where
Yeah.
you eat 80% healthy or as healthy as you can, and then
Yeah.
20% you have fun.
Yeah.
So I'll put away a pizza with no problems, but I just know the next day you got to work a little harder.
Nice. Actually, that's a good point. So that's good to hear your take on nutrition. So what's a typical sort of day for you in terms of nutrition wise? Like, are you a intermittent faster, or do you eat the standard 3 times or 6 meals a day, or how does that flow for you on a typical day?
So I'll give you two examples. So when I was
Hmm.
losing weight, I was very strict. So
Yeah.
when I was really focusing on getting down to a good number, I was incredibly strict, and I did an intermittent fast, 18 off,
Yeah.
6 on,
6 on. Yeah.
and I would only eat twice during that 6 hour period, and I would always work out in a fasted state,
Yep.
and I even threw a few water fasts in. I think I did a 3 day water fast as well.
Yeah.
But now a typical meal for me or a day for me would be, um, I don't eat anything in the morning because my day starts at 5 a.m.
Yep.
So I
Okay.
don't eat anything in the morning, do the kids, get them off to school, and then I work out around sometimes before work, sometimes on a lunch break, and I won't have anything before I work out. And then I'll have two things. I'll have a smoothie with, I sometimes have protein powder. It depends what we're having for dinner that day,
Yeah.
and something else. Usually eggs, beans, and some fermented product. I'm a big fan of fermented products. I make them myself.
Yeah. Right.
And or on the flip side, I'll have some Greek yogurt with some high protein cereal. And then dinner is never structured. Dinner is just whatever we have in the, because we cook probably 5 6 times out of a week.
Yep. Do you do most of the cooking, or your wife?
I do, yes, but my wife has started to get involved in some cooking,
Yeah.
which has been really fun, tasting what she's been making. So that's been really cool.
Yeah. There hasn't
Yeah.
been any. So she's doing well. She gets.
Yeah, yeah, she's doing really well. She made a quiche, which Lee's been making fun of me because he doesn't like quiche, but it was unbelievable. It was the best quiche I've ever had. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Nice. Well, that's good to know. Good to hear. Because I think from memory, last time we spoke, wasn't it, or maybe it still is. It's you that does most of the cooking.
yes, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love to
Okay.
cook. Yeah,
Yeah.
my
Awesome. That's right.
Instagram originally was a cooking Instagram. It
Oh
was to kind
wow.
of just showcase some of the stuff I was making, but food wise, I'm not strict. I don't count calories. I don't do
Yeah.
any of that. I have a good idea for what my intake is.
Yep.
And I weigh myself a couple of times a day, so I know kind of how much I've fluctuated.
Yep.
So, and if I've gone on a bender and just gone crazy that day and gone way over what I should be eating, I'll put a little extra in the next day.
Yeah. That's cool. That's cool, man. And I think that's good for people to hear and to understand as well. Like, yeah, I'm not a calories counter as well. I'm pretty sure Lee isn't. But it's interesting to once you find or get into that rhythm or get into that space, which it seems like you are now, at your what is it, 170, 171
Yeah,
thereabouts.
yeah,
It's a lot easier to maintain. And again, I think, and I'd be keen to hear your thoughts. I find that it's just through that work and that consistency over time, like Jared Miller shared, Emivas. And I think for those that step into that, is that something that you found or discovered in your research when you were perhaps not even when you're injured, but even since then? Is that something that you've come across that's sort of been a staple for you? That's you've gone okay, that like a maybe a light bulb moment, maybe it wasn't, maybe you were already aware of it, but has that helped you in terms of whether it's programming your training or whether it's turning up each day, just whether the video's on and you're recording or not, to understand that what I do today will impact either the rest of the day or the rest of the week? Are those things that sort of go through your head?
yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing I've noticed is I can go because I work out almost daily.
Yeah.
I can go on a bender and go crazy and have a complete overload of calories and be okay. That my weight doesn't fluctuate that much because as long as you continue the next day and you get back to how you typically are,
Yeah.
there's no difference whatsoever. I mean, like for Thanksgiving, I went crazy for Thanksgiving. I couldn't move. I had to lay down for 2 hours.
Food
I hate to
coma.
think, yeah, I hate to think what the calorie count was, but
Yeah.
I was like, oh Christ, I've just put on 4 pounds. So I was like, I'm gonna have to put. I didn't gain anything
Yeah.
because the next day you get back to work, you control yourself a little bit more, and I don't see any issues.
Yeah.
I think the problem is when you get back into the habit of eating like that on a daily basis.
Every day. Yeah.
Because the
Yeah.
thing is
Good
that
point.
as long as you cut out stuff like soda, because I don't drink soda at all, some of those really unhealthy things that are quite easy to avoid,
Yeah.
I think you're fine.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's great. I'm glad that we spoke a bit about the nutrition side and to get your perspective. I'm keen to jump back into your training now, incorporating a bit more the kettlebells and that sort of stuff. How are you? So, how long has it been since you've been using? I know it's been at least a couple of weeks, maybe a bit more, has it?
Actually, only
Or
a week.
longer? Oh, only a week using the
Yeah, just a
kettlebells.
week. Yeah.
And how have you how have your joints and or your muscles and that felt when you've finished doing those sessions in combination with the burpees?
Definitely a little more sore because I'm using parts of my body you don't use much when you're doing burpees.
Yeah.
But I think that's part of what I enjoy about it is, it's made me realize there's parts of my body I need to strengthen, and I think I was creating a bit of an imbalance.
Yeah.
So, but I'm loving it.
Yeah.
That pain is what drives you, I think, because once you feel that pain, the gains are there.
Yeah.
You're working your muscles harder than they used to, and I've seen a big difference.
Awesome. And how are you going then with, I know it's early days, so it's been a week. What are you doing? Are you finding that you're doing anything different with your recovery to try to, as opposed to what you would have normally done when you weren't incorporating the weights and stuff, or the kettlebells in this case?
Not really, no. I've been making sure my nutrition's on point.
Yep.
So I've been slightly more stricter in that regards because I know that nutrition is really important as when it comes to recovery. Um, and sleep is always shot because with three kids, they have me up all hours of the night. So forget about the sleep. Um, but yeah, I've just been stretching a little bit more, focusing on
Yeah.
nutrition a little bit while we get through that first 2 weeks of soreness.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah,
No ice
nothing's
baths
changed
or
too much.
anything? No ice
I
baths
take
or ice showers or?
I do ice showers every day anyway.
Yeah.
That's a normal part of. I love
How
those.
you
Those
get?
are harder than the
Yeah.
workouts.
Yeah. No, awesome. Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah, I have, yeah, my showers are always just cold. I haven't, oh, unless it's really, really cold for some reason. I don't turn it to the hot, so I don't do that cold, hot thing.
Yeah.
I just usually have a cold shower, as cold as I can, or if I'm feeling extra sore or tired, then I get the ice blocks out of the ice cubes out of the freezer and chuck them in the bath and lie in
Nice.
that for 20, 30 minutes or so. But no, I've been finding that that helps, especially with getting back into using some of the weights myself, incorporating them with burpees and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Felt a little strange because it's been quite a while, but also feeling good as well. So I can relate to some of the stuff that you've mentioned there with regards to the
That's
soreness
awesome.
and getting back into it. I fermented products. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth. I thought I was past the food, but I noted down. You said you make your own fermented product. What are you talking about there?
Yeah. So food's a big part of my life, and that's why my restrictions around food will never be significant.
Yeah,
And I love to experiment with different stuff, so I've always been fascinated with some of the older traditions around food.
yeah,
Fermentation goes back many years. I mean, the bread that we eat today is fermented. Um, and so I make my own sauerkraut, make my own kimchi, do lots of different stuff with different breads. And there's a carrot and ginger fermented product, which
yeah,
I think is magic. It's basically 0 calories, but it is so good for you.
yeah.
And you get the probiotics and all that good stuff from it.
Is
So
that
I
all
have a
that? Oh, sorry, go.
no, no. You just it's really good for you. It's next to nothing in the calorie count. A little high in the sodium count, but it's a scoop of that every day. Will
Yeah,
keep you
right.
good.
And is that more? Is that stuff more for? Because I don't know. Is it around gut health and stuff? Is that what it's for, or just?
Yep. And you know, s- from my research, none of this has been scientifically proven, but from my research, a fermented product helps absorb nutrients better. so you get
All
more
right.
out of. So like if you've got a fermented carrot, you get more nutrients out of that
Yeah,
absorbed
than
into
what
your
you
body.
normally. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. So your Instagram channel was originally a food one. You found yourself, you were at 165 back to your wedding day, then you got up to 195. Now, that point there, sorry, just coming back to that catalyst point, was that you yourself thought, man, I'm not where I used to be or where I want to be, or were there comments or things that came about? Reason I ask that is because, you know, I guess social media these days, it's so easy for people to point fingers and say stuff. Was this more sort of self-driven? You just either woke up one day, looked in the mirror and went, what the hell's going on? Or were there comments that people were making that sort of added fuel to the fire?
It was very much self-driven,
Ah,
because I knew how I was starting to look. Like my belly was starting to just stick out. I would sit down on the sofa and you could put a beer on it. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I just looked
cool.
at myself and I was like, you got to do something. And
Did you?
a big,
Sorry, I was going to say. Sorry to cut you off. Did you put a beer on it?
yeah, I
You
would lay
did.
back on the sofa at night and I would pop the beer on and there you go, you're good to go. And I was just like, Jesus, Sam, what the hell are you doing? And a big motivator was the kids too, because my kids are getting older and they want to do these activities. And me, I'm like a kid when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I take my eldest to a ninja lab, which is like for the Ninja Warrior stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Like a
Um,
lot of parkour stuff and all that sort of
yeah,
thing.
and I
Yeah.
want to do that with him. But if I'm unhealthy, I'm gonna miss out on a lot of that. So my kids were a huge motivator for me to get back into shape to where I can do stuff with them like I used to be able to.
Awesome. Awesome. And how many children do you have? Is it three, did you say?
Three, yep, three under my eldest is 6, and then I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Right. Yeah. I think I've seen one of the videos where they're on your back and you're doing a few push-ups and stuff with them. That was cool. That's cool to see. Hey, so what does your wife do when she's not being allowed to cook quiche in the kitchen?
She works from home full time, and
Oh,
so she
wow.
does her own thing. But
Yeah.
she doesn't really work out. She just looks after the kids, gets on with things, and yeah,
It's a bit of a workout in itself, eh? Looking after the kids and
for
maintaining
sure
the
is.
home and looking
Yeah,
after
for
the
sure is.
husbands.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm like a kid myself.
No, that's great. Hey, and just speaking about family, that's great to see. We'll probably come back to your situation and maybe might ask, prepare yourself, might ask how you two met, how I met your mother type situation. But how, family and all that sort of thing, we touched on, and I really appreciated, or both Leah and I appreciated your rawness and openness with us. But it's a very sensitive topic, and I was wondering if you wouldn't mind speaking about that again, because I believe it was a 7-year anniversary since with regards to your brother, and maybe you could talk us through that, because the part of the intent of this Move Sweat Suffer podcast, yeah, it's great to hear about individuals' stories when it comes to their training, what they've done, how they've researched like you, how they turn up each day, how they put in this work, etc. But it's also really cool, Lee and I find anyway, and hopefully for our listeners, to learn more about the individual. There's a heck of a lot more to the people that we see on the videos that are just getting up and down off the ground doing burpees or lifting or
Yeah.
doing incredible things each day, than what we see. And I guess that really was quite impactful for Lee and I. Obviously, neither of us knowing that and having an understanding of that, but family, each of us has or comes from and has family involved in our lives, and sometimes they can either motivate us, or they can, sometimes we're not. I know I haven't been the best family member a lot of times with some of my family and that sort of thing, but I guess in your case, what I found really touching and sad at the same time, but great to see how you've been able to move forward, but also sorry for you to a degree as well with some of the stuff that you shared. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind speaking, just taking this time maybe to acknowledge your brother again and some of your journey in that, because we all carry things with us each day that we're trying to move through. And I think maybe, or we feel that through you being open the way that you were and are and sharing that could potentially help somebody else that might be on the other end listening as well. So
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Like you said, I've been inspired by so many people's stories and some of the struggles that they've been through. You know, and and I can relate to some of that because
Yeah.
what you're referring to is my brother passed away from a heroin overdose 7 years ago, November 7th. So, you know, that was an extremely traumatic time. You know, my wife and I um, we were talking about having a baby. You know, so there was a lot of stuff going on.
Mm.
Um, and it was in a very dark place for probably 2 or 3 months after that. I kind of shut myself off from society. I was drinking too much. I wasn't working. I was in a really bad place,
Mm.
and I owe a lot to my wife for helping me through that. And the idea of having a child was a big part of getting me through a lot of the pain I was going through.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a part of me once I kind of got out of that depression that I was in, because it was depression.
Yeah.
You know, I was miserable. Every day was painful. Um, you know, there was a part of me that was at peace with what happened because my brother suffered for such a long time. You know, he didn't just suddenly start taking heroin and passing
Mm.
away. It
Yeah.
was a many years of struggles that he went through.
Yeah.
And so I became at peace with what happened because his struggles probably were never going to go away. And there was only seemingly one path that he was going to take, and that was the path that happened. So I like to think that he's not suffering anymore, and I'm not religious, but
Mm.
I believe in something out there.
Yeah.
Um, so I like to think that he's at peace now and he's happy and he doesn't have to go through those struggles anymore.
Yeah, nice. And I loved, just thank you for sharing that again and for going through that because, we've had, people like Rob Williams come on here, spoke about the loss of his child and that sort of thing. It's really, yeah, it's rough. I can only imagine. Well, no, I can't imagine, to be quite honest, because I haven't experienced that, but I appreciate you sharing that because I know that there'll be other people out there that can acknowledge that. And one of the things that stands out for me, Sam, is when you spoke about you and your brother wasn't the greatest conversation, right? That you guys had prior to
Yeah.
that.
This is one thing that will never leave me was the last words that we spoke were in anger with each other.
Mm.
Or I shouldn't even say that. That's not even telling the truth. We I had called my parents and he had picked up, and we had been in a fight before, and he reached out an olive branch, and I didn't want to talk to him, and I said some words I shouldn't have said, and those were the last words I ever said to him.
Mm.
And it was only a couple of days later that it happened. You know, so that's a pain that I live through every day.
Mm.
Um, but to touch on how burpees impact that,
Yeah,
one of the
yeah,
things I love about burpees is while I'm doing those exercises, my mind is blank, and what I'm focusing on is what's happening in the present.
yeah.
Um, and it's a friend of mine, Ed Huffman, made a video about how burpees have helped his mental health and how they can help mental health because it's an opportunity for when you're putting yourself through the pain that you put yourself through when you're doing burpees. It's an
Mm.
opportunity for your mind to be clear, and it's not often you get an opportunity for that.
Wow, that's great. I love that you shared that. Feel for you, bro. In terms of what that weight that you carry, I cannot imagine. But I'm grateful that you've had the courage to share that today because I know that it will be helpful. I don't have any words that I feel would be able to counsel you in that, but other than the fact that the example and the way that you show up each day for our community and what you do and what you put out there and you sharing this, I have no doubt is going to help others. There may be people that may be going through a similar situation with their loved one and they hear this and they go, bloody hell, like life's too short or all that sort
Yeah,
of stuff. So really
it
just want
is.
to acknowledge you and appreciate you for doing that, Sam. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thanks,
Hey,
John.
so back to your wife. How did you two meet? How did you guys meet?
So we met through a friend of mine at work, who's actually now my brother-in-law.
Oh,
And he basically said, "Hey, you know, you would really like my wife. You guys should meet.
Hang on, hang on,
And
hang on. I know if Lee was here, he would be saying now. Hang on, he didn't say you would like my wife, eh? He's talking about that you're saying my
my
wife
future
in terms
wife.
of future
Yeah,
wife. Yeah, yeah, gotcha.
yeah. My future wife. Yeah. Yeah, that definitely sounded wrong.
I was like, hang on, hey, Sam, you would really like my wife. I was like, hang on. Go. Sorry, carry on. I know Lee would have picked up on that. He would have jumped on that. So I'm
Oh,
trying to
he for
play
sure
two
would.
roles here. I'm trying to play the good guy, which is me, and Lee's the bad guy.
So yeah, and so that's kind of how it happened, and we had a first date, and things just went from there, and here we are, 8 years later.
Awesome.
Yep.
8 years later, 3 children in the bank. More to come.
Three. No, nope. 3 is definitely enough for me.
So is that a mutual agreement between you and your wife? Both are like call it quits at 3 is enough, or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
So she doesn't
yeah.
want to have more. You're both happy with that.
She talks about missing the baby stage because now
Yeah.
my daughter is well into her twos now, and
Yeah.
she's a little troublemaker. But she talks a little bit about missing the baby stage,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, nope, I'm not even thinking of it.
It's hard case. Yeah. My wife and I we're blessed with 6 children. I would have
That's
had
crazy.
12. I would have had 12 if she would have let me. But
I don't know how you do it,
she
Joe.
said no.
That's crazy.
Would have been great if we had if we had twins. But yeah, we weren't.
6 sets of twins.
Yeah, 6 sets of twins. We would have had 12. But
Oh my
anyway,
God.
no, that's cool. Very cool to hear, and great to hear that little backdrop story as well. Hey, I have a question. Who are you sort of following or paying close attention to recently? So say over the last say the last week or two, who are you sort of paying close attention to in terms of their training? Where are you drawing your inspiration from? And how is that? How are you finding that affecting you with regards to your training and mentally as well?
Um, I've been, I always follow you. I watch every video that you
Oh,
put
that's
out.
that's a great answer. No.
It's true. It's really and actually after we talk about this, I've got a little bone to pick with Lee as well.
Okay, yeah,
So
good. Let's do that.
we can get him. But
Yeah.
yeah, your videos are unbelievable. What you achieve is unbelievable to me. And then there's our friend from the Netherlands who I cannot pronounce his name and I don't want to
Yeah.
butcher it. But
Gastra is the last name, right?
yes.
Yeah. He's
He
incredible, eh?
is unbelievable. It's number one, just an amazing guy,
Yeah.
just a genuinely nice guy. But there's some of the stuff that he does. I mean, I'm really enjoying watching his handstand
Handstands? Yeah.
progressions and stuff.
Hands.
Because I do a little bit of that kind of calisthenics. I do some static holds and stuff on the dip bars.
Yeah.
But oh, he's unbelievable, and the way he's
Yeah.
tackling Iron Wolf's December challenge, the advanced version. Get out of here, man. I can't. And then he said his
Some
form
shitty
wasn't
name.
that good in one of his videos, so he threw in another couple of rounds. So he's blowing me away. I'm really enjoying watching some of his stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's the James Bruce, what he puts out,
Yeah,
Tone,
yeah.
Lee's videos when he's not complaining.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, were you going to pick the bone? What were you going to say about Lee? What are we getting into him about here?
So I've been hearing Lee say that he found you,
Oh,
and he's the
yeah.
one who, and I'm like, nah, Lee, Derek found you first, and then I came in on the scene about 2 videos later, and I've gone back and looked.
Yeah.
Lee doesn't start commenting on your videos until a month and a half after me and Derek start commenting on your videos. And I went back and looked at some of the videos I did, and I threw a couple of shout outs to you because of what you were doing. And I feel that helped get you out there a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I think when I found you had like 8 subscribers or something, and I was like, this guy
2.
is doing the most ridiculous stuff, and he's only got. So yeah, so Derek found you, and then I
Right.
came in a couple of videos later.
Yeah, I knew it wasn't Lee. That guy just wants to jump on. We've been having some quite funny banter back and forth. Anybody that he says he discovered, I'm just joking that no, I found him first. But knowing full well I didn't discover anybody. But it's been awesome. And yeah, you're right. Like, it's been really appreciated having people like yourself, people like Derek, Rob Williams, and even Lee that have come along and just been so supportive. And that's the thing. That's the constant theme that I find and see in this community is just the support and acknowledgement of each other and reaching out. I love that. And I'm keen to get your thoughts here. So here's another question for you. I've been really taken and happily taken by the comments and questions of the requests for feedback that people have been putting out there in relation to their form. And I'll use an example. So Burpee's Bandit puts out, and he's been asking for feedback on his form. I know you do with your stuff. But to be honest, I haven't really seen a lot of people do that. Probably you're one of the regulars. Burpee's Bandit has been one of the regulars. Busy Dad actually has been another one that I see in here ask for feedback. And I guess what's your take on that? Because we all, I'll just try and give it some context. We all have, I guess, come from our different backgrounds, but we all have our own take on where we think the burpee or how we feel the burpee should be performed, whether it's the chest touches the floor, whether the arms just get to parallel in terms of the tricep angle, or whether it should be below parallel and a steeper angle, or whatever the case might be. But you're always going to get, I find anyway, differences or fluctuations in terms of people's perspective of it. What's your take on, and why do you ask for feedback personally for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's, I think it's such a cool part of the community that we're in, is that we're all just looking to improve. I've done it specifically for the kettlebells because from the research I did before getting them, I knew they were quite technical.
Yeah.
So I wanted to learn from some of my past mistakes where I just jump into an exercise. I wanted to come in at least having some understanding of how to do the movements properly.
Yeah.
Burpees, I do it often in the burpee videos. I'm always saying, if anybody sees anything wrong with how I'm doing a burpee,
Yeah.
let me know. Call me out. I have no problem with that. I like to think my burpee form is pretty good because I work really hard on it.
Yep.
The only thing is I dip my back a little bit, but the problem is where I work out, it's on a bit of an angle.
Yeah.
In my opinion, a good form burpee is, I'm focused on the push-up. I'm not really focused on how the jump squat is or any of those other movements, because that can be done differently. It's the push-up for me, because that's the foundation of what a burpee is. And to me, you can have your hands in any position, doesn't matter, because you're going to work different parts of the arm, so that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's pushing down, and I do it to where either my chest gets close to hitting the floor or my nose hits the floor.
Yep.
And it depends how you're doing it.
Yeah, cool.
I think people talk about flaring out. I think as long as your arms are at a kind of like this and not like this, but it's the movement. And then when you're coming back up, you've got to lock your arms out, because if you aren't locking your arms out, you're not getting the full benefit of the exercise.
Yeah, cool. No, that's great. It's a very interesting point. Like I think for me personally, sounds like I'm aligned with the way that you view the burpee. The push-up is an important part, but it's quite interesting. And I don't know how much research you've had a look. I must admit I haven't done a lot of research into it, because I'd rather just put some time and energy into putting some work in rather than researching stuff. But with regards to some of those that I've seen, people that have gone into researching the burpee is just the hands on the ground, jump the feet back into that plank position, and then jump the feet back in and stand up. And apparently that is what a burpee or like a burpee is. But we have I guess from the army side of things or military background perspective, a burpee to me has always incorporated a push-up. Yeah. There's always been a push-up. And then people talk about, people have this, and I know Lee's quite animated about it when he talks about like a CrossFit style type burpee, and it looks like a soup sandwich, or somebody that's, when they're jumping out, like a cat that's just touched the water and they're springing up out. But you know what, I think not taking anything away from CrossFit, I think what they do as a community is fantastic, and there's some absolute machines that that can blitz. Pretty much, they're so well rounded, so athletic, etc. And they seem like really good people, just like people within this burpee community. But when I'm seeing them, and from what I understand anyway, the reason that they're going all the way to lying their body fully on the ground and then getting back up is to maximize that range of motion or range of movement in terms of what I understand. But either way, they're incredible things, but I'm aligned with what you're saying. The push-up is an important part. I do hear some people that, for various reasons, and rightly so as well, if they've jacked their elbows or whatever from extending those fully, that's some of their reasons why they don't do that, or why they don't lock them out. And that's fine. Like, I'm fine with that, as long as if people are showing up every day, putting in the work, and they're finding that so tying this back to what you said, and they're finding that they're receiving the gains or the improvements that they're wanting to make, then it's got to be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it depends who you're dealing with. If you're dealing with people like us who take what we do extremely seriously, and we actively are asking for form feedback, so it's clear that we have this idea that we should be doing it in a certain way, and we want to try and perfect that. But then you do have people who, maybe are just starting out and taking time to grow and to strengthen their body to get to a point where they can do it properly. Because, this idea that a push-up is an easy exercise is crazy, because most people don't do them properly. Push-ups are a very difficult exercise to do when doing properly. Like when you hear these guys say, "Oh, I can do 100 in a row." Nah, not many people can do 100 in a row. Not 100 proper full range of motion push-ups in a row, because it's incredibly hard to do. So it's once you break the exercise down into the proper components, it's a tough exercise to do. But you're right, for people who are just starting out and they just want to do the plank style burpee to begin with, all the power to you. You're getting your work in, and you're burning some calories. You're making yourself stronger. Progress to the next stage once you're ready. Not a problem whatsoever. But it's easy to see that, though. Like if you're watching one of their videos, it's very easy to kind of pick that out and say, this person is fairly new at this exercise and they want to try and improve.
Yeah, true.
So it's like if I see Busy Dad pumping through a bunch of Navy SEALs and he's only doing half reps, you bet your ass I'm going to call him out, because I know he can do better. Do you know what I mean? Like, but that's the difference.
Yeah, awesome. Oh man, that's a great perspective. Yeah, I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And I think it'll be helpful as well for hopefully for people to understand where they're at. And there is this, I can't remember where I heard it from, but I know I heard it from some good friends of mine that we used to serve together, and they would use the saying, outside of the Defence Force, everybody wants to be held accountable until they're held accountable. And then people can start getting defensive and upset. And I was really interested in listening to Busy Dad speaking recently on one of his videos. I forget the title of the video, but he openly speaks about how he was he got defensive initially because he thought that these people were just being trolls. And, he prides himself, like you and I and many others, we try to pride ourselves on doing the movements correctly. And when somebody jumps on and you feel like they've been a bit of a troll, he was saying he felt quite annoyed. But I love how he dialed that back, and it sounds like you do the same. He's just gone, okay, well, maybe I need to seriously consider this. What am I not doing? Either that's not correct in the movement of itself, or whether it's not to somebody else's standard that's looking at what I'm doing. But at the end of the day, listening to what you're sharing, and I feel like we're very similar in our thinking here, is if I feel like I'm progressing and I'm getting myself stronger, and I may not be at the standard that somebody else has got set for me in their view because they're more advanced or stronger or whatever, I'm okay with that personally, because I'm ticking off my goals and I'm looking at why I'm doing this for me. Exactly. So hopefully that helps some of our listeners through the words that you've shared.
To touch on that a little bit too, I've dialed back a little bit because I was getting into a situation where I was seeing some of the routines that Lee was doing, some of the routines that James was doing in tone, and I was like, I'm going to try and do that. And I learned my lesson when I did Lee's challenge.
Yeah.
because I need to remember I don't have a fitness background. I've only been doing this for 9 months, and before that, I was a fat lump on the sofa for 5 years.
Resting a beer on the belly.
Yeah, so I did Lee's challenge. I couldn't walk for 5 days, and it made me realize you've wasted 5 days of training opportunity because you couldn't let your ego go and say probably a little bit too challenging for you. Dial it back, and it wasn't
Yeah.
the pumping that was tough. It was the jumping squats
The
that did me
jumping
in.
squats. Yeah.
I mean, I was working in the office the next 2 days, and you should have seen the effort it took for me to go get a cup of coffee. I looked ridiculous. I was hobbling around like this old man because I couldn't straighten my damn legs out. And I was like, Christ, Sam, what are you doing? But it made me realize, stop getting sucked into these challenges. Focus on what you need to do.
Yeah.
Focus on what your limitations are, and only go above those limitations once in a while. Because I think it's beneficial to push yourself to those limits
Definitely.
once in a while, just to see what you can do and how you've improved.
Yeah.
I mean, when I did the 1300 burpees, I was fine the next day. Mentally, I was destroyed,
Yeah.
but physically, I wasn't too bad. Lee's challenge destroyed me. And it made me realize I need to stop trying to emulate what those guys are doing and focus on my own work and my own progression, because I'm at a different level of fitness than those guys. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely. Man, great comments, man. I love that you've elaborated on that. Thanks for that. I'm going to ask you, I've got a few more questions, but I'm going to ask you some quick fire questions. What's your, so actually, yeah, you've probably already mentioned it, but I'm going to ask anyway. What's your favorite cheap meal?
Favorite cheat meal? It's got to be pizza and wings.
What sort of pizza?
I'm a big fan of ham and pineapple, but my wife doesn't like that, so we just get pepperoni.
Ham and pineapple. Wife doesn't like it, so pepperoni. Okay. What about chocolate or ice cream? If you could only choose one and eat one, chocolate or ice
Chocolate.
cream? Chocolate. Okay. Pizza or chocolate?
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Favorite movie?
Big Trouble in Little China.
Big Trouble in Little China. Is that Kurt Russell?
It's Kurt Russell.
Kurt Russell, man.
It's a proper 90s.
Yeah. How old are you? Sorry.
33.
33. Oh man. Look. Yeah. I thought. Well, yeah. I'm 43. So I thought when you said Big Trouble in Little China, I was like, hey, is he the same age as me? Anywho, let's go past that. Biggest fear.
Oh goodness. Not a big fan of heights, but I guess my biggest, probably heights.
Heights. Cool. Let's go. Who wins out of Robert McCall? Do you know who Robert McCall is? Robert McCall is the character that Denzel Washington plays in The Equalizer. Have you seen that movie?
Okay. Yep,
Okay.
yep,
So, who wins out of Robert McCall or The Equalizer? Jack Reacher, John Wick, Jason Bourne, or James Bond?
John Wick.
John Wick. Yeah, excellent.
Love John Wick.
John Wick. All right. Where are we? Oh, here we go. So you're 33. Obviously, there's been a lot of growth since you were back in your 20s. If you knew what you know now, and you could go back and speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you tell yourself?
Oh my God. I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything at 20.
So knowing what you know now at 33, you could go back and you could speak to yourself. Let's put a time frame on this. You could only speak to yourself there for a minute. What would you tell yourself?
Man, that's a good question. Don't worry about what people think.
Don't worry.
Focus on yourself. Focus on your own growth, and put yourself first at that age.
Awesome. Nice. That's cool. I like that. Don't worry about what people think. Put yourself first. Focus on yourself. For that time you're talking about, at that age.
I think at 20,
Yeah.
Put yourself first. You've got no
Nice.
responsibilities. Make sure that you're set up as best as you possibly can.
beautiful, man. That's cool. Favorite genre of music?
Heavy metal.
Heavy metal. Favorite.
Huge heavy metal fan.
So who's the what's the name of one of the bands or groups?
Machine Head's probably one of my favorites.
Machine Heads. All right. Right now, let me ask you. The Glasgow Rangers are known for what?
Football.
That was your opportunity to say that wrong. I just wanted. So far, every time I've asked that question, aside from you, everybody's got it wrong. So it's just made my day. Each time I see Lee's face and somebody gets it wrong. All right. Here's an opportunity for you to shout out a few people. You get to shout out only 3 people, not just from the Burpee community, 3 people in the world. Who would they be?
Oh man, you've number one, the Burpee community. I'm gonna count them as a whole. I know that's not the best answer, but you know what everybody's been able to achieve. You can probably hear my kids in the background. They just came home. My daughter is super cranky. The Burpee's community as a whole.
Okay.
And I know that's not the best answer, but it's the honest truth, because every single person who is in this community that we've kind of created is helping me daily do what I do.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do what I'm doing now without them. Awesome. And that's you, Lee, but everybody. So it's a huge thank you to them. Another shout out for me would be Jordan Henderson, who is the captain of Liverpool Football Club. I'm a big Liverpool supporter. I've supported my whole life. And he's a huge inspiration to me, because when he first came to the club, he was a nobody.
Wow.
He didn't play particularly well. He wasn't liked by the fans for the first few years, but he has turned himself into one of the best captains that the club has ever had. And he's done it all because of just pure hard work. Nice. And seeing what he's been able to achieve is a huge inspiration. And someone actually asked me, why do you have a Henderson football shirt and not like a Gerrard one or one of the famous players? And this was the answer I gave him. So
awesome. And he's now the captain now, Jordan Henderson.
He's the captain. Yeah, he's the captain. Yep.
Wow.
And he's absolutely fantastic.
Right.
So, and he's not the most gifted football player. It's his work ethic and his leadership qualities that make him so good.
Awesome.
And then a third person. I can't even think of a third person.
You can't think of a third person?
Oh, there's my daughter. Yeah, I can't think of a third person.
What if I gave you a clue? Does your other half listen? Would she listen to this podcast?
She probably will. Yeah.
So,
I better say her.
Good work. Right.
No, but to be, all seriousness aside, all jokes aside, sorry, she's amazing. She supported me from day one, and we've been through some tough times, with my brother, and putting up with me because I'm a pain in the ass. She is fantastic. So yeah, she definitely deserves a shout out.
Yeah, awesome. I'm pleased to hear that. That's great. You're a sweetheart, your wife. And the last question I've got for you here, brother, before we look to give you the opportunity to wrap up with any final comments, is finish this sentence. My favorite podcast is
Move, Sweat, Suffer.
Yes, good work. So, mate, I just want to take some final few moments here just to really acknowledge you, Sam. You're a massive influence and a great example and a great person within the community. I consider you like a brother, a family member, a friend, a close friend. You're a very good example to me and to those of us within this community. we're blessed to have you as part of the community and the work that you do and the example that you set, and even the advice that you give, whether it's at the start, your openness and honesty at the start, whether you're feeling crap, whether you're feeling well, you turn up and you try to put in your best effort each day. At the end of your videos, often there's some good counsel there for those that may be watching and listening and or aspiring or feeling inspired by what you do. So just would love for you to continue that on, because I know it helps me and it helps others that are part of this community. So just thank you again for being on this podcast with us. You're definitely somebody that we would love to stay, or that we will stay connected with. We'd love to have on again. Thank you for your rawness and honesty and openness with us, particularly around some very challenging and tough topics. But if I could say anything is to you as a friend, is that we love and appreciate what you do, and hopefully, as the days go by and the months go by and the years go by, that burden and that weight of whatever happened between you and your brother can become a little lighter, because I'm sure your brother wouldn't be wanting you to carry that. I know your parents wouldn't. I know that those of us within this community don't want you to be carrying that, because we're blessed and privileged to have you, bro. So keep up the awesome work, and mate, it's been a privilege and an honor to have you on. So you can take away with any final comments, and please feel free to jab and get stuck into Lee as much as you like before you leave. That can be a parting gift for him for being slack and not showing up here. But mate, over to you.
I appreciate it, Joe. Thank you so much. I guess the final words would be, if you're watching this and you're wondering when is a good time to start doing burpees, start doing it now. Because I'm a prime example of someone who came literally from sitting on my ass for 5 years and not doing anything, to someone who started off doing 10 push-ups, 10 burpees, and have slowly progressed up to where I am now. And I like to think I'm at a decent level. You can do it. You've got to focus on your diet, because that's important. You're not going to be able to continue to do the level of reps that we do if you don't look after yourself. But don't look after yourself too much, because food is an important part of your life, and it's an important part of happiness and enjoying food. 80-20 is a great rule to go by. It's what I go by, and it's doing me fine. But just start doing it. Start doing it slowly. Just a few reps here, a few reps there. Taking the advice from Jared Miller's podcast. If you can only do 5 burpees, do 2 every hour. If you can, for 10 hours, you've done 20. You will progress. I promise you, you will progress. It's an exercise that has an extreme level of progression, to where you can get up to some crazy numbers. So I hope that my story and what I can do and what I've achieved in 10 months, 11 months, can inspire you to get out there and do it, because you can. Awesome. And there's a great community of us as well. We're all here to support you. So if you're starting out, we're here to support you. We're here to help you. And a lot of us will do anything we can to do that. So.
Yeah. Awesome, man. And don't pay any attention to Lee if he tries to say he discovered you. Just if anything, block that guy. Block him and delete his comments from your videos. No, awesome, man. Great counsel, great words. Actually, you just reminded me, sorry, just to come back, your comments and how you tied this back to looking at why you're doing this in the first place. And you're doing it for yourself, taking the time, as you mentioned, to research and get yourself right, to push those limits, on both the physical aspect of the training. These are just some of the notes that I'm just looking at now that I forgot to mention when I was just acknowledging at the end. But it's okay to push yourself and to suffer a bit and to feel that pain, because as you mentioned, then you're starting to receive some of those gains that are going to come about as a result of that. So don't always take the easy path, but it's okay to take a recovery or a lighter session as you go along. So yeah, just great counsel, great words, mate. And again, privileged to have you on the podcast. Thanks very much, Sam.
Thank you, Joe.
on behalf of Lee as well, because I know he did want to be here. So even though we've been ripping him, or I have probably more so, Lee did want to be here, and he does send his sincere apologies to the community and that as well for not being on this particular one. But yeah, just life has happened for him today with the children and getting his booster jab and all that sort of stuff. So he sends his apologies and his appreciation to yourself, Sam, and to the community.
Thank you, Joe.